Welcome to our channel, where we uncover the most terrifying stories that defy explanation and instigate your mind. From crazy stalkers to sinister encounters, these are the stories that nightmares are made of. So, turn off the lights, get yourself a cup of coffee or tea, and prepare yourself. Tonight we're gonna dive deep into 6 stories that happened in real life. Story 1. In the early 1800s, the peaceful farmland of Adams, Tennessee, became the epicenter of one of America's most notorious hauntings. The Bell family, led by patriarch John Bell, faced a malevolent force that would torment them for years, leaving behind a legacy of fear and mystery that endures to this day. It all began in 1817 when John Bell encountered a strange animal in his cornfield. Described as having the body of a dog and the head of a rabbit, the creature disappeared when John shot at it. Soon after this incident, the Bell family began experiencing strange phenomena in their home. They heard unexplained knocking sounds on the walls and doors, chains dragging across the floor, and faint whispering voices that grew louder and more sinister over time. The disturbances escalated, focusing particularly on John Bell and his daughter Betsy. Betsy was subjected to brutal physical attacks. She was slapped, pinched, and had her hair pulled by an unseen force. Objects in the house moved on their own, and the family reported seeing strange apparitions. John Bell began experiencing unexplained paralysis in his mouth and throat, which hindered his speech and eating. The entity, which came to be known as the Bell Witch, seemed to have a personal vendetta against John Bell. It communicated through eerie, disembodied voices, proclaiming its intention to kill him. Despite attempts by the family and their neighbors to drive the spirit away, the haunting persisted and even grew stronger. Word of the Bell Witch spread, attracting visitors from far and wide, including a young Andrew Jackson, who would later become the President of the United States. Jackson, intrigued by the stories, visited the Bell farm. Upon arrival, his party experienced the witch's malevolent presence firsthand when their carriage wheels inexplicably locked, and they heard mocking voices and felt invisible forces attacking them. The witch's haunting continued for several years, becoming increasingly violent and vocal about its hatred for John Bell. In 1820, John Bell's health deteriorated rapidly. He experienced frequent seizures and severe pain. On December 20, 1820, he was found dead. Nearby, the family discovered a vial of strange black liquid. The witch's voice echoed through the house, claiming she had given John Bell the poison that ended his life. After John Bell's death, the entity's activities lessened but did not cease entirely. The Bell Witch vowed to return in 7 years, and true to its word, strange occurrences resumed in 1828, although with less intensity. The legend persisted, with periodic reports of odd happenings in the area. The Bell Witch legend has been passed down through generations, capturing the imagination of many and becoming a staple of American folklore. The story has inspired books, movies, and countless discussions about the supernatural. Skeptics argue that the Bell Witch was a fabrication, a combination of mass hysteria and the fertile imaginations of those involved. However, for the descendants of the Bell family and the residents of Adams, Tennessee, whether a product of superstition or a genuine paranormal event, the Bell Witch of Tennessee remains a compelling and chilling story, a testament to the enduring power of ghost stories and the mysteries that continue to fascinate us. Story 2. In 2004, the small town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, became the backdrop for one of the most perplexing disappearances in recent memory. Maura Murray, a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, vanished without a trace after a car accident on a desolate rural road. It was February 9th when Maura's car skidded off the icy road and crashed into a snowbank. Several witnesses saw her at the scene, seemingly unharmed. A passing bus driver stopped to offer help, but Maura insisted she didn't need assistance. He drove to the nearest house to call emergency services, but by the time police arrived, Maura was nowhere to be found. She had simply vanished into the wintry night. The circumstances leading up to Maura's disappearance added layers of mystery. Prior to leaving campus, she had withdrawn cash from an ATM and packed her belongings in her car. She emailed her professors and work supervisor, citing a death in the family and indicating she needed time off. However, there was no such family emergency, leaving her true intentions unclear. Search efforts were extensive and involved local law enforcement, volunteers, and even the FBI. Helicopters scanned the wooded areas surrounding the crash site, and search dogs combed through the snow-covered terrain. Despite these efforts, no trace of Maura was found. Her disappearance sparked numerous theories, from abduction to voluntary disappearance to succumbing to the elements in the wilderness. Over the years, sightings and leads emerged sporadically, but none provided conclusive evidence of Maura's whereabouts or fate. The case gained widespread attention through media coverage and online forums, where amateur sleuths and armchair detectives dissected every detail in hopes of uncovering the truth. The mystery of Maura Murray's disappearance remains unsolved, haunting her family and baffling investigators. The circumstances surrounding her vanishing continue to be debated, with no clear answers emerging, leaving her loved ones and the public alike searching for closure and resolution. If you like this content about horrifying real stories, remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell to never miss any video. Story 3. In 1979, the tranquil woodlands of Livingston, Scotland, became the eerie backdrop for an unsettling encounter that would defy explanation. Robert Taylor, a forestry worker, stumbled upon an otherworldly sight that would haunt him for the rest of his days. On that fateful day, Taylor was performing routine tasks in the woods when he suddenly came upon a bizarre and ominous sight, a large, spherical object hovering silently above the ground. Even more disturbing were the smaller spheres that emerged from the main craft, resembling metallic objects with a menacing intent. Fear gripping him, Taylor watched in horror as these smaller spheres approached him with purposeful movements. Before he could react, they engulfed him in a surreal struggle, pulling him towards the larger object. The sensation was overwhelming, disorienting, and terrifying. Unable to resist, Taylor succumbed to unconsciousness. When he regained awareness, Taylor found himself lying on the forest floor, disoriented and in pain. His clothes were torn, and his body bore strange marks and injuries. Shocked and shaken, he stumbled back to civilization and reported the bizarre incident to the local authorities. The case of Robert Taylor's encounter with the unidentified flying object quickly garnered attention. Police officers who investigated the scene were baffled by the physical evidence left behind, strange indentations and marks on the ground where Taylor claimed the object had hovered. Despite their efforts, no rational explanation could be found for what Taylor had experienced. The incident remains one of the few UFO encounters officially documented in a police report, adding a layer of credibility to Taylor's harrowing tale. Over the years, skeptics and believers alike have scrutinized the details, but no conclusive explanation has emerged. Robert Taylor's encounter continues to stand as a chilling reminder of the mysteries that lurk beyond our understanding, leaving us to ponder the unknown and question our place in the cosmos. Story 4. In 2006, the decomposed body of Joyce Carol Vincent was tragically discovered in her London apartment, nearly 3 years after her passing. Joyce, a former council worker and aspiring singer, had vanished from the public eye without a trace. Her apartment, when found, was eerily frozen in time. The television still flickered with muted light, and unwrapped Christmas presents lay scattered across the floor, the passage of time since her last known interaction with the world. Despite having friends and family, no one had reported Joyce missing. Her bills continued to be paid automatically through her bank account, perpetuating the illusion that she was still actively living her life. Joyce's death remained a perplexing enigma. Authorities could not determine a clear cause of death due to the advanced state of decomposition, leaving behind a haunting sense of mystery. Joyce Carol Vincent's tragic story resonates as a stark portrayal of urban isolation, where amidst the bustling city life, an individual could fade away unnoticed. Her life, marked by hopes and aspirations, ended in obscurity, her existence only rediscovered through the persistence of utility workers entering her flat. Story 5. In 2001, Sneha and Philip, a 31-year-old doctor in New York City, vanished without a trace. Sneha lived with her husband, Ron Lieberman, in Lower Manhattan. On September 10, 2001, she took the day off and ran errands, as captured by CCTV footage. She was last seen on video at a department store near the World Trade Center, buying shoes and lingerie, before disappearing into the bustling city streets. The following day, as the world watched in horror, the Twin Towers collapsed in the worst terrorist attack on American soil. Amidst the chaos, Sneha's absence was initially unnoticed. When Ron returned home from work that evening, he assumed she had stayed at a friend's place. It wasn't until the next day that he reported her missing. As days turned into weeks, Ron and Sneha's family desperately searched for her. The possibility that she had perished in the 9/11 attacks was considered, but there was no concrete evidence. Her name was eventually added to the list of victims, but doubts remained. The investigation into Sneha's disappearance revealed troubling details. Friends and family described a strained marriage, with Sneha reportedly struggling with depression and substance abuse. She had also been suspended from her medical residency due to unprofessional conduct. Despite these issues, those close to her insisted she wouldn't simply vanish without a trace. Speculation abounded. Did Sneha become a casualty of 9/11, perhaps while helping victims at Ground Zero? Or did she use the chaos as an opportunity to escape a troubled life? Adding to the mystery, her credit card was never used again after that fateful day. In 2004, a court declared Sneha a victim of the 9/11 attacks, granting her family closure and benefits. However, not everyone was convinced. Some believe she may have staged her disappearance, while others argue that the true circumstances of her fate remain unknown. Sneha and Philip's disappearance continues to baffle investigators and haunt those who knew her. The unanswered questions surrounding her case makes us question of how easily someone can vanish, even in the most documented events. The mystery of what happened to Sneha remains unsolved, leaving us to wonder what really happened to her on that fateful day. Story 6. In the quiet suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio, 34-year-old Sarah Mitchell lived alone in a quaint bungalow. Life was peaceful and uneventful until the day she received the first letter. It was a plain, unmarked envelope slipped through her mail slot. Inside was a note written in neat, meticulous handwriting. "I like the blue dress you wore yesterday." At first, Sarah was unnerved, but tried to brush it off as a prank. She couldn't recall seeing anyone watching her, and there were no signs of forced entry or tampering around her home. She decided to be more cautious, but hoped it was an isolated incident. However, the letters kept coming. Each note contained increasingly unsettling details about her daily life. "You looked sad when you talked to your mom on the phone," one read. Another said, "I saw you take your dog for a walk at 8:15 this morning." The letters never included threats, but the intimate knowledge of her routine was enough to send chills down her spine. Sarah started to feel like she was being watched all the time. She stopped going out as often, drew her curtains, and installed additional locks on her doors and windows. The situation took a darker turn when Sarah found a letter inside her house. It was on her kitchen table, in the same precise handwriting. "I love the way you sing in the shower." Panic set in. She was certain she had locked all the doors and windows before going to bed. How had the intruder managed to get inside? Sarah contacted the police immediately. They took the matter seriously and began an investigation, but there were no signs of a break-in. The locks were intact, and there was no evidence of forced entry. The officers suggested installing a security system and assured her they would patrol the area more frequently. Sarah took their advice and installed cameras and motion sensors around her property. For a few weeks, things seemed to calm down. Sarah regained a sense of normalcy, though the fear still lingered. She avoided certain routines, hoping to throw off her stalker. But one evening, after returning home from work, she found another letter. This time, it was on her bed. "I miss watching you sleep." Terrified, Sarah decided to stay with a friend for a few days while the police continued their investigation. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched and felt vulnerable even in her friend's house. The police reviewed the security footage but found nothing unusual. No one had entered or exited the house during the time Sarah was away. Determined to get to the bottom of this, the police conducted a thorough sweep of her home. During their search, one officer noticed something strange in the attic, a small, almost imperceptible seam in the wall. Upon closer inspection, they discovered a hidden crawlspace behind the attic wall. Inside, they found a makeshift living area, a sleeping bag, food wrappers, water bottles, and, most disturbingly, a collection of photos of Sarah, taken without her knowledge. Some were recent, others dated back months. The realization hit Sarah hard. Her stalker had been living in her house, hiding in the crawlspace, watching her every move. The police immediately set up surveillance, hoping to catch the intruder returning to their hideout. Within a few days, their patience paid off. They apprehended a man who was sneaking back into Sarah's house in the dead of night. He was identified as Martin Green, a 38-year-old with a history of stalking and mental health issues. He had become obsessed with Sarah after seeing her at a local coffee shop and had meticulously planned his intrusion into her life. The police found detailed notes and plans among his belongings in the crawlspace. Sarah was relieved but deeply shaken. She moved out of the bungalow and stayed with friends until she found a new place to live. The experience left her with lasting anxiety, always feeling like she was being watched. She sought therapy to help cope with the trauma and took extensive measures to ensure her new home was secure. The ordeal was a stark reminder that the feeling of being watched can be more than just paranoia. For Sarah, the silent stalker was not just a figment of her imagination, but a living nightmare that turned her life upside down. As we wrap up these disturbing histories, it's clear that truth is often more frightening than fiction. Each of these real-life horror stories leaves us with questions that may never be answered. What do you think happened in these mysterious cases? Share your theories in the comments below. That's it for tonight. Thank you for watching till the end. If you want to be featured in one of our videos, send your history to me in the email you'll find in description. Pleasant dreams and good night until the next video.